Hi, my name is Kevin Retcher, owner of First Meridian Mortgage. Today, I'm going to teach you how to be a keyboard warrior on your VA home loan purchase. Welcome back to the till. Hi, my name is Kevin Retcher, and in today's video, we're going to break down being a keyboard warrior on a VA loan. That's right. I'm a veteran-owned mortgage broker. I've been in business for 30 years, serving Virginia, Maryland, DC. And quite often, the biggest mistake that veterans make is actually using the keyboard wrong and not understanding what and how to shop for a mortgage rate. So if you're new to the channel is The Till, which is truth in lending and in life. And let's get into it. First and foremost, again, firstmeridianmortgage.com is my website, but we're going to start off with the local fan favorite, Navy Federal Credit Union, right? So Navy Federal Credit Union was my first checking account coming out of boot camp. They were on base. They were essentially the easiest place to go get a checking account. And basically everyone said, whatever base you go to, they will be there. Okay, so there's some comfort in that. And then the next thing, as soon as I went in and to do that checking account, they were like, Marine, if you want to buy a new car, just let us know. We can just take an allotment right out of your paycheck, and it's super simple. And first and foremost, they know that you have a job, and they know that they can get that money without a problem. So in general, don't do that. That's a mistake that a lot of people make. But when it comes to shopping for mortgages, just because they're great at car loans doesn't necessarily mean that they might be great at mortgages. So let's kind of get into it, and we're going to be keyboard warriors together, right? So Navy Federal, one of the things you do have to look around and poke around to get to the rates. So in general, Navy Federal here has an interest rate. They're running a special right now. If you had a chance to read this, Military Appreciation Month offer, right? It's available exclusively to the eligible members. We're taking 0.25% off for May. So normally this would be, instead of 5 3/8, 5.625 with 3/4 point. And in general, that doesn't sound horrible, right? But what I want you to pay attention to is the asterisks, number 4, number 2, and essentially number 5. What Navy Federal will do on purchases and on refis is have asterisks on some of their pricing. And I think it's very deceiving the way they do it. But it says rates displayed as low as on today's date and require a 1% origination fee or a 0.25% increase. So if you look at that right here, they're essentially hiding that in the asterisks, right? I'm not a fan of that when it comes to that. So Navy Federal is actually 5 3/8 is a cost of 1 3/4 instead of just 1. So it should say 1 3/4, right? So in general, I'm not a fan of them being deceiving, okay? So let's check out PenFed. So to get to PenFed, go to mortgage, and then click on their mortgage rates, right? And they will show those mortgage rates. VA loan 5.5, but then we have to learn more, right? That APR was 5.797. So that mainly means that there are probably, if it's higher than the note rate, that there's probably some points. So if we look at this right here, that interest rate requires 1.25% points to discount at that interest rate. So they're just not showing you all the data up front. So you might go ahead and make that loan application and call them up and say, well, I don't want to pay that amount of points. Then what they're going to do is they're going to raise that interest rate from 5.5 higher if you don't want to pay the points. Okay? Next, the fan favorite is USAA. So you got to poke around if you were on their website, look at their banking, and then home purchase, mortgage rates, and then you can typically find what you're looking for. Here with USAA, they're charging 1.228 points at 5.875. Now that would be closer to Navy Federal if in fact they weren't running that special. But in general, at least I respect them for having the points there. They do have an asterisk here. So remember, I'm teaching you to look at the asterisk. That's number 3. The number 3 asterisk here is that the loan may have a VA funding fee, right? All of these loans, being a VA, if you're not exempt, would have a funding fee. So they're just making a statement that's true on all of these, okay? Next fan favorite, let's bring that back up to, so we have those handy. Next fan favorite, let's go to good old Veterans United. Veterans United, in general, is one of the companies out there that I feel preys on military individuals because they have veteran in their name, okay? And they do a good job, but they overcharge veterans and try to take advantage of them as much as possible. They are faster than the credit unions in doing a loan, but most realtors generally don't want to do business with any of these companies because they're not local, okay? But 5.625 with Veterans United is a cost of 1.8 points. That is $5,000 and some dollars on that loan amount. I don't know what loan amount they used, but on a $500,000 loan amount, that would be like 8-9 grand. So let's check out Rocket, another fan favorite, and see where they're at. Rocket on their VA loans, if you go to their rates, you can click on VA rates and pull those up. 30-year fix with Rocket is 5.99% and 2 points. So on a $500,000 deal, that would be 10 grand. They're actually priced the worst out of all that we checked today. So now let's go to First Meridian. In general, 1.8 points is a lot, right? So what does a veteran do in being a keyboard warrior here? Well, at least what we've done is we could compare all of these. If we're looking at all of them in general, you've got 5 3/8 with 1 3/4 points. You've got 5 1/2 with 1 1/4. You've got USAA with on purchases, USAA 5.875 with 1.25, 5.625 with 1.8. Do you get the theme here that none of these are showing what just a 0-point loan is? To me, that's really frustrating as a veteran because I don't want to pay points on a VA loan. The reason I don't pay points on a VA loan is because of how easy a VA IRRRL streamline refi is. Why would I pay points when I can do a streamline with typically less cost, no appraisal, no credit check, no income check, and I can streamline refi that every time the rate drops by 0.5%, and that I've had the loan for 210 days, and I recoup my closing costs within 36 months. So I don't want to pay points. That's one of the biggest mistakes veterans make. So what does someone do? Doesn't matter where you're at in the country. You can go to firstmeridianmortgage.com, which is my website. And on the main page, click on live mortgage rates, right? So let's fill this out. Purchase, I'm going to do 500,000. Zero down for VA loans. If you're a veteran, you need to make sure that you put in that you're a veteran. And click yes, okay, so that it gives the pricing. And we're going to submit this. I am not in control of what the output of this is. I have about 20 different investors, and it searches through those and spits out the rates accordingly, right? So it does change every day. Green, look at my asterisks. Note, red are points, green are credits, right? It's very simple for you, right? So at 5.625, my lender is paying you a credit of $491. I don't get to keep that money if I wanted to. That means my normal fee is being paid, and there's extra, and that green goes to you. So green is money, and that goes to you. If you wanted to do 5.5, like the Penn Fed, remember they were 1.25%, right? At 5.5, it would cost 0.552. So I'm 0.75% better there. And you can see that 5 3/8 is not listed on there, but 5.25 is 1.4. So the 5 3/8 is somewhere in the middle. But even then, it was 1 3/4 points at 5 3/8 with Navy Federal, right? Got to add the 1 point, right? So in general, I would be at a lower rate with less points, even if you wanted to pay the points. But the rate that you should be taking here is 5.625 without paying any points, and you're getting money. This is money in your pocket, right? This is what you should be taking and getting. You should be getting 5.625 and getting paid money. So being a keyboard warrior, there's a responsibility to your family to do it right. So in general, I'm not bashing any of these lenders. They all do things great on bases, and they try to take care of veterans as much as possible when it comes to their checking, their personal loans, autos. I just feel that you have a responsibility on your biggest purchase in your life when it comes to getting a mortgage to actually know how to shop each of those entities. Now, there may be other websites out there and other lenders that you may find over time, right, that make sure you're clicking through and finding the data and looking at the asterisks. That is the point of being a keyboard warrior and making sure that you are doing what's best for your family. My name's Kevin Retcher. I'm the owner of First Meridian Mortgage. I serve Virginia, Maryland, DC. Got 22 bases and a lot of military, a lot of government workers that were prior military. If you're looking to get a VA loan, I implore you to actually do proper shopping and look at the information. I will tell you that most local real estate agents aren't a fan of the big box credit unions because you're not dealing with a professional loan officer that makes his living doing mortgage loans. So in general, hopefully this taught you how to be a keyboard warrior and to shop more effectively. Some of the key lenders that our veterans tend to go to. If you have any questions, give me a call, 703-799-5626. I look forward to serving you. To all the Marines out there, you know what I'm going to say? Semper Fi. I'll talk to you soon.